Ah, shit. That's still loud. What the heck? Oh, didn't save? Okay. Is time already? Yes, it is. It is time. Hope it's not too loud. It's a bit loud for me, personally, but could be fine. I can lower it down a bit. Actually, yeah, give me a second, chat. So good morning. Good morning, Tater. Straight through. Keep on. I don't know if it got tweeted out or not. But it's there. I forgot to turn on my video model. Believe me. So you guys are just gonna listen to the main menu song. Actually, this is still too loud for me. Changes, yes. Oh dear. I almost spoiled myself. And then game capture. Fire rush. Hello, Art. Wow, this game looks really nice, huh? I'll make myself a bit small. Like this maybe. Alright. Graphics, window full screen. Window full screen. Full skink, frame limit. Auto, camera shake, graphic preset. I'm having chocolate mouse. Oh, that's nice. This is still too loud for me. I don't know why you chat. Yes. Wait, there was a Lantis check. Oh, I don't know how you know what? I'll figure that one out. New game. Easy struggle with high-speed action game keep coming. And normal, hard, very hard. Let's put it normal. Oh, raise your volume or lower the music a little bit. Oh. I'm probably just speaking very far away.
Next. Next. I said next.
What happens if I do this?
Shy, is it?
Yep.
Profession, rock star.
Rockstar.
Future rockstar.
Are you done?
Yes.
Whatever. Here's your Project Armstrong pass. And welcome to Vandalay campus.
Yes.
Oh shit, is this 2D?
Welcome, applicant, to Project Armstrong. Technology perfectly fused with the human body. Together, we create better lives.
And now, the CEO of Vandalay Technology, Kale Vandalay!
Oh, okay. Alright, typical.
What a historic day. You're the best of the best, and about to be even better. Thanks to our robot enhancements, Vandalay has always been about helping those in need. And you all in Project Armstrong are about to show the world just how special you can become.
Are we like in a school? I don't get it.
Now go. Get ready for a better life.
Does my mic sound okay? I'm still overwhelmed.
I'm with him. Special pass here. I think they just called my name.
Oh yeah. Armstrong interesting. Oh, okay.
Promised me the best of the best, Mimosa.
Production asked for test subjects, Kale. Marketing delivered.
Don't pin it on Rekka. Tell that grandstander Zanzo in R&D.
We need people.
Dude, the animation
with
is so
influence.
smooth.
And you're giving me losers.
It'll work.
It better. No slip-ups. And no defects. What a piece of junk.
Oh. That's interesting. Okay. Oh my god, cute little cat. You guys can't see it. There you go. Dude, the animation on this is so good. Oh, ow. Okay. He just plays fantasy to Oblivion. Not Oblivion, he just got fucking yeeted on.
An error has occurred. Please proceed to the checkpoint.
Okay, checkpoint. Where's that? Don't worry. Probably no big deal.
We'll find it, buddy. Don't worry about it. I'll lower it just a little bit. Just in case. It's too loud. I don't know. I think the volume should be fine, right? No. Light changes. Okay, this is to change the camera. Suichi Kobori, the pulse. Oh. Jumps really high.
Oh man, that surgery trained me out.
Consume energy drink.
Ah, that hit the spot.
Ah, that hits the spot. Alright, let's go, buddy. Oh my god, I just realized it goes with the beat. Oh, I can double jump? Okay.
Please collect your belongings.
Yeah, time to get out of these clothes.
B. Oh.
Oh, jeez.
Come on, dude. Like, I get that I do that too, but... Ooh. Dude, the art style for this game is amazing.
Hey!
Alright, kid. Robotic arm, LX-75, magnetic waste management fixture.
Wait, magnetic waste management?
Foreign object warning. Looks like a defect. Take him in.
Take him in.
Is that a weapon?
I don't think so.
I think he's resisting.
Wait, what?
Oh my god. Oh. Resisting arrest, get him. Yeah, I get him, boy. Dude, I just woke up and decided to stream and play this game. Excuse me, I'm not giving much of a commentary. Oh shit. Oh. Dude. I have to turn this up, bro. No. Okay, maybe not too much. That's not what I meant to do. Save settings. Dude, that's actually pretty good.
What is going on?
Well, in this game, it's just turn the brain off and get violent and groovy. Groovy.
If I'm getting this right... First, music player in my chest. Pretty sure that's not supposed to be there. Second, it's powering up my new robot arm. Third, it's making everything sync up with the beat. And this sounds ridiculous, but when the music kicks in, it feels like...
Yes. Yes.
Like I'm on a stage.
I mean, he did want it to be a future rock star.
Whoa.
All right, everyone. Ready for something wild?
Whoa.
Chai's here, and his attacks sync up with the music. You all want to see it in action? Let's start with a light attack. A one-beat attack that quickly connects combos. Go ahead, try it out. Now try a combo and beat to the music. This will be what perfect timing feels like.
Ooh, okay.
Look at you. Perfect timing on that one.
Oh, yeah!
Your attacks always land on the beat, but press the attack button exactly on the beat to give bonuses in battle.
Oh.
Looks like you're ready for more. Head on over.
Oh, holy shit.
How about delivering some real damage? The heavy attack. This one takes 2 beats to land, so listen carefully for the beat in the middle.
I got this.
All right. Now try out a heavy combo in rhythm. This is the kind of timing to aim for. What a pro! You got it.
Okay, my only question is, do these, you see them in game, or do I have to guess?
Is this the guy? No.
Thank you.
There's an option to see it in game. Ah, okay.
Oh, anyone see the guy that did this?
That's the defect.
What? No! I was just.
Is there? I mean, I can do it
Here we
later.
go.
Yo, dude, that's so sick.
Take them out!
Ding. Oh, Magnum Siomo, thank you for the follow. This Siomo. What's up, man? Use a world gauge for the beat. Use it as a restaurant. Timing is key, so relax, feel the beat when playing. Like the music, I can hear the audience cheer to beat when you attack on the right beat. Need help? I don't define the beat. You can.
Well, that was awesome. But I should probably get out of here.
To me, I'm doing good. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that, man. I am currently just colorblind mode. Some graphic. Is it gameplay? I am just playing this game. Oh wait, shit. There's more to this. I didn't even know. SSR. Video reflex on, please. Thank you. Sound. I mean, sound should be fine. Action. I kind of like having subtitles for my silly little brain, because I am like that. I just like looking at subtitles. Okay. All vibration on. The streamer mode on. Mouse smoothing. How do I turn on the rhythm thingy? Is it on sound? Also, this is a funny rhythm beat up game with a funny cat as well. I'm not sure. I mean, I did saw the cat, so. Wait, where's the settings for?
Hello, Big Boss of Production Record here. And what's this I hear about a defect running wild in Record Soul?
Oh my god.
Sees this kid running around? Record wants you to smash him. No defect gets out of production. Not on Record's watch.
Okay, clearly not someone I want to run into.
Okay. Okay, I need to basic action, no dodging. How do I do it? Which part of the setting do I turn it on? Hold on, I have to read what the target. Come on. That's not it. Control left stick doesn't mouse game is more difficulty. Hint system on off. Graphics. We want this all on. Accessibility, maybe actually. Cutscene side, cutscene speaker name. Sure. Action mode. Action mode automates select movement. Oh, I don't want that. Enable already game to default to a single presses. It says press A. I don't know which one. Oh. It's currently waiting on voice actor respond to a DM so that I can. I have no idea if I can stay for long. Oh, okay, that's fine, man. It happens. I would like for this. Alright. It was nice seeing you stopping by. Oh, I can dash in. Oh shit. Where am I supposed to go? Wait, where am I supposed to go? Oh, okay, over here.
Hello there. Can I be of assistance?
What are you?
Vandelay SmartBridge VASF07, but commonly known as Smidge.
Smidge.
Not very catchy, but
I can analyze your well-being and guide you to satisfaction. Let me indulge.
hey, no indulging.
You seem to have musical robot powers.
Mm.
Would you like me to explain your malfunctioning abilities? So it seems your problem may be attacking enemies to the beat.
I wouldn't say it's a problem.
Attacking enemies on the beat does more damage, so I sense it. For some people, the beat is hard to find, like inner peace. But here are some tips.
Okay, I'm
Your
listening.
attacks always land on the beat. And since it's beneficial to attack on the beat, pressing the attack button again when your hit strikes is the perfect time.
Oh.
That makes sense.
And if you need even more help, it seems you have a rhythm assist.
Rhythm assist shows the beat of the music. If you need help at the beat.
But rather than explaining it, why don't you try?
You want me?
I can see it. Now let's try a heavy attack.
Oh, okay.
Just like I thought. You can do it.
Wow, these fridges are great. You really do know me. Okay, that was just creepy.
I skipped
Let
that
me know
part.
if you'd like to try again.
Okay. I figured it out now. It's on now. It's pretty distracting now that I look at it. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Actually, let me just freeze. We go over here, hit stuff. Can I destroy everything? I guess not. Watching movie with friends. Enjoy Hyros. It's amazing. Nice. Also, hello, Eru. Oh shit. Well, I'm dumb. What? Hey! I swear I'm not doing this one first.
What's the defect? What's suspicious?
I have work in.
You looking
Bro.
for me?
Is that late for you?
Get him!
Try and catch this? And now, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
You alright? Thanks for helping my cat. Need a hand?
Yes, please.
Convenient. Looking to get out of here!
Well, that might be something I can handle if you...
Hey! Yelling like this is awkward! Can you speed this up?
Fine then. Look, I hacked the access panel. Smack the switch and come up.
Okay, this is suddenly having it there is a lot more awkward. Accessibility. Right, turn it off. Maybe I can't turn it off. Maybe I'll make it smaller, like this. Yeah, okay. Maybe? I don't know. Does that work? Add a lot of maps. That's good.
Man, Project Armstrong turned out to be a real bummer. I want a cool robot arm. Target on my head.
I mean, you do have a cool robot arm. You just have a target in your head as an extra. Wait, I'm going the wrong way, am I? Hello. I don't need your help.
Anyone who thinks of taking a break today is getting crushed.
Hello? I'm here. Cat rescuer? You said you'd help out? Maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
Good, you made it. Down here. Alright, so I'll keep this quick. I saw you fight back there. I think we might be able to help each other.
I thought...
Security's all over you, which I could help you with.
Stop! Okay, whoa. That was you back there? You're a cat?
No, this is 808. She is a cat, but I built her. Look, like I was saying...
You know, I thought my music robot arm power was crazy, but this is... probably better off by myself.
Dude.
Bro.
Listen, Vandelay's up to something, and I said I can help.
Thanks, but I'm good.
Ow. Oh, wait, what's happening? Oh, synchronize. Oh my god, Kitty!
It's not responding. What did you do?
Oh, hold on, did you just feel that? That beat? I think we got something here.
Look who's back. Andy's got a friend? Thanks to 808, Chai's got a new skill up his sleeve. A beat hit. It's a timing-based bonus attack at the end of a combo. On the last hit, watch for the timing circle and press any attack button to land it. Talk is cheap. Let's try it out.
Oh, I don't get it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There it is. Going pro.
Oh.
To land a beat hit, listen to the countdown or look for the 2 circles overlapping to nail perfect timing.
Okay, I don't get
Try
it.
a beat hit with your heavy combo. You're on your own with this one.
This is awesome!
Beat hits are key for doing strong combos and damage. So don't forget to feel that beat.
Okay.
Oh, wait, was it? I think we got something going on here. Hey, so offer reconsidered, but I'm gonna borrow your cat for a little bit.
What? Why?
Hey, you wanted to help, right? Don't worry, it's just till I get out of here.
You better not run off with her.
Okay, yeah, I can't get these. That's good to know, I guess. Oh, holy shit.
Bring it on. Ready for more?
Wait, so everything you do have to follow the beat? No, not necessarily. It just gives you like a bonus if you do. Everything hits last on beat no matter what. But you get damage score bonuses from playing on beat. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that looks like all of them.
Maybe things aren't so bad after all.
Okay. Remind me to ask you later how you did all that.
Like I know. Anyway, your turn. I need to get out of wherever I am.
You're in production, and the only direct exit is through quality assurance. You see it?
So many buildings. It's hard to tell.
It's the one that literally says QA Center on it.
Oh yeah, that one.
With that way out,
That's
they're
he's so
probably
mean.
expecting you, so...
You had me at way out. Let's go.
By hitting constantly combo, landing within his time, you can. I'm not reading this right. Your demeanor can go from a D to an S. The higher the rank, the higher your score multiplier. Based off your performance during the battle, you receive bonuses towards your final rank. The higher score, the higher rank. This time... Okay.
Being cocky isn't gonna get you out of here.
The best solution is the most obvious.
That's wrong and terrible advice. You're wanted. We need to outsmart them.
Well, then I'll fight my way out.
Are you an idiot? That's literally the opposite of outsmarting them.
What's this? Rekka here doesn't report for all caps at time. Kale's visiting the facility and Rekka knows all the grimy grease hands are fixing your nuts and bolts to get things working. But Rekka wants the place shining in Armstrong Day. And someone spell check those Armstrong scanner. You hear that voice? That's the crowd cheering when those Armstrongs are coming out to public. When Rekka gets her nice bonus at the end of the fiscal, Rekka's she'll name check you all in the millisecond before Rekka kicks her butt. Okay. Who's Rekka? Oh, hi.
I'm telling you, that was Kale in the flesh. You don't even have flesh. You wouldn't know. Actually being in production, does that count that I met him? No, it doesn't. So get over it and let's fix this staircase.
Okay, they're just arguing. You know what? I like the cute cut of this voice too. What does that even mean? There's something over here. Okay. Yep, there's that thing that I miss. Okay. There's that thing that I want to get. I think I can just jump off. Life gauge. Ah, okay. Convenient. Means size 5. Okay.
Reminder, to compensate for added Project Armstrong flow, a new day of the week was added.
New day of
Please
the
note
week.
on this additional day of the week, working is mandatory.
Okay, fine. I'll talk to you.
Hello there again, friend.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, you must have not seen me. Perhaps my sign wasn't big enough.
Yeah. That was it.
I knew you wouldn't be so rude as to avoid me.
You know, I was actually noticing that too.
Finding the beat is as simple as looking around. Even the environment reacts to the beat. I think this is what those young people call being in the zone.
Maybe? But anyways, that's cool.
Okay, you can go away now. Don't need any more hints, little guy. I mean, you aren't even little. Hey, what's down here? Not much, I'm assuming. Oh, hey! There's some gears over here. Little bonus. I'm ignoring you, fella. Oh. Well, I guess that's what I got for ignoring it. Oh, oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Ow. Oh god.
I think I found a shortcut.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Genius to
Oh, this campus is huge. It's more like a city.
The perks of being the world's leading tech company. Vandalay likes to show off. But I'm looking for what they're hiding.
Oh, you like digging up secrets. How about telling me your name?
If it took you this long to ask, you can wait a bit longer.
Oh my god.
Chai, by the way.
Chai? Alright then.
Like chai tea. I'm curious what's the word here. I guess not much, actually. I've done that. Okay. Wait, this game's from Bethesda? Yeah, actually. I was surprised too. Oh.
Wow. A lot of shortcuts around here.
Bro, stop dying. I don't see Bethesda X Aspect. That's actually cool. Yeah, they're probably just trying out something new, so. Dude, this song fucking slaps. I don't know about you guys. It says why everyone liked it so much. Pre-production order R&D. PGR 101. Unit 315. Okay. Order Labs Zanzo wants this unit over the days, so even though the idea was necessary. Product name, expanded battery pack for the Armstrong delivery. By design, the power is made to fail at 6-month mark, exactly 6 minutes past the warranty period. Zanzo wants to put out this battery supercharge to help that? I don't know what he wants anymore. You didn't hear it from me, but all it does is mess up the charge and wear it out fast. But for your information, this is like a lightning rod. Zanzo didn't want any protection covering since it'll look cooler. Wear rubber gloves or something.
Battery production activated. Don't touch the red lasers. Obviously.
Ow. Oh god. Oh my god, oh my god. This is not a turn off your brain moment.
Hey, cool. What's that?
I wouldn't touch that.
I'm touching it.
Well, you're not dead. That's a plus.
Okay.
The opposite, actually. It feels like I'm powered up.
808 is showing me you've got a lot of energy stored up in your arm. How about letting it out?
Try can build up energy in his rebirth gauge to unleash special attacks.
Please don't explode.
LNR, is this it? Oh, batteries. I have nothing to add. This is just fun to play. Ooh, there's vocals. Okay. Give me a second. I need to... do this for a second. And then... into the game. Fine, I'll talk to you.
Oh, wow! You seem to be able to now use...
That literally...
Reminder!
Yeah.
But these special attacks are key. Landing, beat hit, but it seems like all the energy will disappear.
Like they say, if you don't use it...
You live with constant regret over what...
That...
We found him! Wrecker wants him wasted. So let's waste him.
Ow. See, that looks like cool. Oh, I only got a C.
Not bad at all.
Vocals are nice. Yeah, they are pretty nice. Ooh. Oh. Oh wait, I'm dumb. That's where I was supposed to go. What's this? Oh. Hey, buddy. I'm taking you. Oh. RB, which one was that? am I supposed to go? Never mind. I was supposed to go here. Good thing. Ow. And then bam. Ooh, funny button. Okay. Alright, let's see one.
Uh-oh. Power's out.
Oh, okay.
Generator looks busted.
Could you fix it? Any tools nearby?
Tools? I got a better idea.
You're not gonna power it up yourself, are you? It's probably gonna do that.
And the beat goes on.
We just hit it, and it goes. I probably should have paid attention. Where are they arguing
I
about?
told you to check that generator. You had one job. You set me up. What? Rekka will destroy both of us if we run behind. Well, someone fixed it, so stop yelling at me.
Okay. Down, jump, jump, bum, bum. Jump, hit, hit. Oh, this poor guy. I'm so sorry. Can I, like, kill you? Oh, I can't. I'm so sorry. You did nothing. You actually did nothing. And I just murdered you. You hear it. You see it here, folks. I just murdered a little innocent robot. Well, I died. Well, I died again.
Reminder. Sick days must be registered 6 months before desired date.
What the
Asterisk.
fuck?
Sick days for robotic employees will not be approved.
That's mean. Oh. Sick. Ooh, I got an S. Definitely won't react to your attacks until you break their stun gauge. Once it's broken, you can knock them back or lift them into air for combos. Oh, okay. You know, I know these aren't needed, but I like to have those bonuses. I'm that type of person that'll just go around and look for everything. What is this guy doing?
Rhythm games are too hard. I want to relax, but you gotta time it right.
Give me a second, let me check here.
How about combining those heavy and light attacks for even more combos and beats?
Finally, we can do it.
Now's the time to try it out.
Almost out of here.
Are you kidding me? Bro, it just slammed. Dun, 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 dun. I relate. You relate? How do I... Whack. Just that one guy. How do I combine the combos?
Check this out.
Lagging really high, what the heck? Oh, I'm so sorry, bro. Finally.
That's it. Told you this was easy.
That's bait, idiot. They're clearly expecting you.
With what? Nothing I can't handle.
It's true though, I'm so good. Let me grab all of these. Yum yum yum. Oh, this is personal note from Car. I'm getting a feeling that us Car series are getting overlooked because they're in charge of QA. They're replace it, and it's fine. Like we're nothing. Now with 1 million is over nothing, even though Scratch or something left behind. Robots are getting appreciated.
You must disapprove of my work. Yet, I do not. Please, I have work to do.
Oh, okay.
You may have destroyed me stack, but my memories remain.
I am sorry.
What a good job it was.
I am sorry. I have to. Pero. Kitty.
See, just like I thought. It's fine. You need to relax.
We make that.
Introducing the head of production, Rekka!
Oh, that's Rekka. Okay.
There you are, man. Messing with Rekka's crew, Rekka's production. And worst of all, yeah, Rekka's perfect, no defect record!
Your security tried to kill me!
Project Armstrong, EULA. Fine print. Should've read it, punk. Defects get recalled!
Recalled? You mean killed?
Rekka ain't picked the verbs. That's for the mooks in marketing. Anyway, thanks for being dumb enough to just waltz in here. Rekka ain't gotta get her hands dirty.
I told you.
Welcome to the Project Armstrong defect check, honey. And our QA's the best in the business. Hey-o!
Whoa!
Yo, dude. Yeah, let's get it going, boys. This should be easy, right? Character from Borderlands, yeah. It's probably the comic book-esque.
That's good.
I like how they taste.
Oh, that's bad.
Inspection level 1 million.
Oh.
Let's rock, big boy.
Bring it.
Chai, his hands are extra sensitive for, inspecting.
Weird way to say hit them, but Okay.
Ouch.
Hand down, Chai. Go get him.
Oh god. Da-da-da-da. Oh, that hit me in the air. Oh no! I didn't know I can get pushed off. Oh god, I don't like this. Where am I? I'm stuck. Oh. 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 Are we gonna get this? Okay, yeah. Oh. IO's slow. I'm not doing too good, huh? Ha 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 ha. God. Oh my god, oh my god. I can't do this, bro. Oh, okay, I didn't know you can hit him in the air or like hit his head, so. Let me try that. Oh, okay. Bro. Oh god.
Get out of there.
Oh god, what happened to my music? Oh god, my headphones just died. I don't know about you guys, but I can't hear anything. Oh my god, what's a laser? Okay, I can hear the voice now. Oh god, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Let me hit it. This is... needed to get out of there. Ow. Dude, that thing threw me off. Can I just... Ow. Guys, I'm kind of struggling, if I'm gonna be honest.
You almost got him!
I can see that.
Ow. I forgot it does that. It's just annoying. Jump, 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 jump. Wow. Dude, good gamer, so true.
You got a killer track. But every song's gotta end.
Is that an actual guitar? Also, hi Hamura. Yo, dude. This is sick. Uh-oh. No. You like the entire fight? I'm so sorry, bro. Self-destruct? Uh-oh. You better run, girl. Actually, will he survive? Oh, I don't know how to fight the boss. I'm gonna be honest. What the hell is wrong with IndieHome? I have no idea, man. Don't worry, my fight was painfully bad. Rank B. Hey, sweetheart. 0.
Whoa! Did you see that?
Yeah. But this time, just shut up and follow me. We really gotta get out of here. No complaining this time.
All right.
Bring him and jump him, hit him in the head, and label him weak point. Well, I didn't hit his head, so that's what I didn't know you can do.
Are you scared?
What? No. I mean, it is a little dark. Hey, there are no spiders down here, right? Or like robot spiders? Oh, please don't let there be robot spiders.
Robot spiders.
This it?
In here.
Hello? Catbot?
Ow. Dude, what a loser. Oh. Is this her?
A rope snare? What are you? Cartoon character?
So that's where the magic happens, huh?
Kitty.
My name is Peppermint.
Wait, that voice! You're the cat!
808 is my eyes and ears out there. And it looks like she's taken a liking to you.
It's a Robocat.
Okay, she's yours! She's yours!
Ow.
Get up, slacker. We've got work to do.
Ah, yes, the lame dude and the girl boss girl.
808 said you were gonna help me get out of here.
I am. Right after you help me look into Spectra.
I don't even know what that is.
Don't expect you to. This is whistleblower level.
So... bad?
Yes. And I'm working with a team to expose them. We're small, but...
Small meaning just you and your cats? I'm bigger than this.
Chai,
Says
please.
Rockstar here. Do you even actually play guitar?
Well...
See?
Figures. I'll talk.
Chai, please.
This campus is a maze of hallways, lifts, and dead ends, filled with security. You'll need my help to get out of here.
Nah, so far I've done pretty...
Chai is not lame, he's a
Wasn't for
golden
me.
rule.
Look, if you help me...
Look, I
I'll make
call
sure you
him
get off
lame, but in
Fable
an
Island.
endearment way, okay? That's what I meant.
I guess.
Doesn't mean I hate him. Look at him. Pathetic little fella.
This
Skinny
is your hideout?
arms, skinny
You really are a
legs.
small operation.
Well, now we're +1. You can rest on
Lame,
that sofa.
affectionate. Yeah, exactly.
sweet, I see.
Exactly like
By the
that,
way,
dude.
I may be able to help you out with some upgrades if you have some spare parts. Let's chat before we head out.
Just, God. I'm not saying he's bad. Like, I don't like him, but like, I'm saying like he's lame and that's kind of charming in its own way. Lame, affectionate. Okay. Nice thought.
Man, what have I gotten myself into? Well, at least it'll be a cool story to tell in 5 years.
It will be, actually. Play with the
Normally
cat.
not a cat guy, but I'm digging this.
Yes. Pet the cat. Next stage.
Did you not hear me? I said let's chat before you head out.
Whoops. Sorry.
Oh, my bad. And let's look around over here. Place challenges to earn flesh out moral to get to your adventure. Story goes on, more challenges will be unlocked again, what you've earned and what's available. Oh. Okay. What's this? Ah, this is the things that we found. Hello.
I'm not the master of Vandalay tech, but with some gears, I may be able to give you a bit more fight.
More fight? Can you be more specific?
I set up a shop for you.
Ooh.
Here you can learn new attacks. You can use them just by buying them. Here's your chance to learn new special attacks.
Ooh, okay.
Each attack requires a certain amount of reverb gauge, so make sure you have enough before buying. Also, special attacks need to be equipped. You can't just use them all.
Oh, okay. Type heal.
I see. So, I'll just slot in my attack, and I'm good to go.
And finally, here are items for some permanent upgrades.
What's this?
I've got an idea for something, but let's just say it's still in pre-pro.
How are you doing all this with gears?
Don't underestimate me. I can do more than you think.
All
Okay.
right. Let me see what you got.
Let's see, let's look at the store. Let's see what. Okay, so we can buy movements. Is that it? And then we can also buy special attack. Oh, that is sick. Oh, that is also sick. Hold on. I don't know how to do it. There's some airborne one. Oh, okay. Let's buy them and also sell them. So that's interesting. Spend when tries interval heal a burst or reward energy to drink him. I'm gonna beat when him drinking will store more health. Okay, interesting. Override slash. Frontal mid-range high damage. Oh, actually, that is actually sick. Devil May Cry. I've never actually played Devil May Cry. Okay, let's see. Holding aid. Health increase. Give a shock and give add section to size maximum reverb. Health tank. And special attack slot. Which one should I buy? Well, I can only buy this, so why not? What's my combo? I guess I have to look at it.
What's the grand plan?
Nice, like 7
Alright.
cut.
Check this out.
You should play 5? Maybe. Maybe. I have the time.
Mission report. So this Spectra program is, like I said, top secret. And only the top brass of the company have info on it.
Why are you so worried? Spectra could be anything.
Let's just say someone on the inside gave me a hot tip.
Sure, whatever.
Anyway, we're gonna go back up to the production facility. Using my skills and your powers, we break into the production head's office. That's Rekka.
Zara.
And with our luck,
Rekka.
she's busy cleaning up your mess at QA and won't be there. We access her computer, steal the files on Spectra, and get out.
Cool, cool. I wasn't listening, but sounds quick and easy.
Great. While you're away, I can sync up with your tech through 808. Might figure out some new tricks for you.
What? You weren't coming?
On a mission this dangerous? I'm not that stupid. I'll leave that to you.
All right. Wait. Are you implying...
She's implying you're stupid. You're a stinky doo-doo. Hard face. Affectionate. Look at him go.
I'm here, baby.
Who are you talking to?
Huh?
Just head to Rekka's office. You can see it up there.
Pretty high up.
You'll have to head through the main production building, but I'll be your guide. Try to keep a low profile.
Come on, 808. Let's have some fun.
I wonder if I can do it. Let's see the combo list. Oh, it's not there anymore. Oh, there we go.
Can't believe you got a drink out of that thing. If you hit the machine just right, it won't eat your credits. Take it from a master like me.
I love Rekka's office. Looks like a credit card. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, I noticed the little details. It's actually pretty neat, if you notice it. Unsent complaint. Email draft unsent. The AI charge of Remembrance, I don't want to make any disturbance, but being that I am in charge of taking care of the production central garden, I am curious over the reason for its existence. Our ads tell people it is for inter-office communication, but employees are requested to not go into the garden. This is confusing for the employees since it's a beautiful but never used. Never mind the amount of work and eye cleanup team put into making it look immaculate. Also, I am questioning the intent of the world's largest hedge mage in this as well. Oh, I missed that. Where am I supposed to go? Up here? Oh. I don't think I'm supposed to go here. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna break everything I see.
Hey, there's Kale! And that's, what's her name? The old Vandalay boss.
Roxanne Vandalay? Are you serious, Chai? She built the company from the ground up. Know your history.
Jeez, you wanting to yell?
Just give credit where it's due.
Yeah, man, give credit where it's due. You know.
Maybe Roxanne founded the company, but Kale, cool dude, nice hair.
He's riding the coattails of a real pioneer.
What did he ever do to you?
Let's just focus on the mission.
Yeah, he's the one that got you into this mess, bro. What the fuck? I was ambushy hinting you that if you can hit the enemies for goodies. Oh, really? I have to go back now. Can I even go back? I need to know. I'm assuming not. Yep, okay. I didn't know, I'm dumb. I was just like, ooh, okay. Ooh, boxes. Okay, I can't hit all the boxes apparently. I want to hit all the boxes so I can get all the gears. And I'm not doing a good job on it right now. Damn it.
Uh-oh.
Ding. Ooh, I got an S, finally.
Well, there goes our low profile.
Come on, this is more fun. And as long as Rekka doesn't...
Attention! Rekka here! That defect was spotted in my building! I'm hoping none of these chump security get it, so I can rip them apart, piece by piece.
Oh, sounds juicy.
I thought you said she wouldn't be here.
I thought you said this was more fun.
Oh, the silly girl. Chai, you are a silly, silly boy. Okay, let's go. I want the gears. Hello, little guy.
Why do they give me such unrealistic goals? They want me to lift the big boxes with these tiny hands.
It's okay, Car. I can help you.
I would rather use some help right now. My job is on the line.
Okay, fine. How do I help you, buddy? I can't help you. I'm sorry. But I'm gonna bully you. Give me the boxes. Give me the boxes, man. There's gears inside. I want it. Fine, I'll leave you be. Done. Boom, boom, boom. Ooh, what's this? Okay. Oh, this vent is actually a lot bigger than I expected. You know, the Y messes me up because you have to wait one beat. Oh, there is a lot going on here. Like, the Y, the heavy attack, I have to wait for one, like, beat. Kinda messes me over. Oh, well, I fell. Did I lose any gear? Oh, yeah, I lost the gears. Okay. And then I wanna do more combos. You know, this game's kind of fun. I don't feel like I have to like talk. Like a part of me wants to talk as I play, but then I'm just like, I don't know. You don't lose gears, okay. But I lost the one that I hit, so. Auto repair dialogue converted to text. Base here. Sent to HR department. Audibly paranoid twin. Well, finally got this whole room automated. Makes me think once us robots turns automated the production line, what happens to our position? We're gonna lose to some machine who automate better than we automate. But how much over automate can automate gets? Am I getting scrapped over this? Robot solving sounds continue for 25 minutes. Okay. Understandable. I understand. Oh hey, there's this thing. Okay, I overexhausted. Here we go. It's okay. Focus on the game. I mean, yeah. I also just wanna make sure. Oh. I don't know.
Dad,
I personally.
Bad news for your pride, but you won't make that jump.
Any ideas?
808 is feeding me info on your arm. It's magnetic, right? You should be able to hook onto that point.
Okay. Oh.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. What was I gonna say? I completely forgot. Oh yeah, you know, sometimes I like to watch silent gameplays. Or not silent gameplays, you know, just like people who doesn't really talk much in their let's play, so I just want to focus on the story. I don't know if you guys like that more. I personally like those. It's like watching a movie together with your friends, I guess. But I'm honestly, in movies sometimes I like to talk a lot. Especially when I'm with my brother, whenever we like... Okay, we can't hit that. Whenever I'm like...
Apparently we're supposed to look out for a, music fighting intruder. I think this may be a typo.
I don't think you're getting for how many layer combat gets? Ooh, okay. We'll see.
Hey, Chai, use your magnet on the enemies to close in on them.
Oh my god, I can't close in on him. Oh.
Out of my way! It's mine.
Whoa there, big guy!
Is he still alive? Yeah, it's an
Chai, at
A,
least
not
find
bad.
a back route, maybe?
Well, looks like a path up through there.
Alright, good thinking, boy. Let's go. Wait, what's this? Okay, you did, you fell. Okay, that was my fault though. Sorry. I fell again. I'm not smart. I'm just like Chai. I'm just this dumb, silly boy. Yeah, hello. I'm not gonna talk to you. Okay, fine. I'll talk to you. What do you want?
Oh, hello there. I can feel a very special attraction between you and I.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why would you say it like
Your magnet. But it also need to get in close to an enemy. Also, if you manage to knock an enemy into the air, the magnet will bring you up to them quickly.
Ah.
What an amazing...
Dude, this...
That's not what it looks like.
Wait, is there something more up here? Oh, hey! There is something more up here.
Wow. This is pretty good. This would be cool to hang up in the hideout.
Oh, hey! I learned something. Oh, there's more shit up here, too. Nice. Oh, that's too high for me. Or more so, I'm too lazy. Ooh, okay. Come on, it's almost broken. Oh wait, it's already broken. Never mind. It's almost like exploring the words in the game. Crazy concept. Come on, man. Yeah, I like to... Let me just have my... Oh shit. Hello? Oh wait. There we go. I'm a little silly like that. Okay. Hello, little guy. I'm sorry, little guy. Oh, I missed that combo. That's embarrassing. I didn't hit anyone. Are we done? Bam, bam.
Cat time. Let's go.
Oh, there's more. Okay. Hey, we did it. It's only on B though. Oh well, that's fine. Boom, nom nom. Alright, let's go. Oh. Wait, what? Here we go.
Hey there, Chai.
Oh my god.
How'd you do that?
That looks so
Figured you might
cute.
need some help out in the field. I hacked these terminals and can send you some upgrades from here.
Ooh.
Nice.
Okay. Can upgrade mid games. That's actually convenient. Let's buy that. Can I buy this? Yes, I can. Wait, my X one. What this one? YYXX. Okay, I'll definitely remember these.
So Peppermint, this spectrum thingy? What's that about?
Spectra. Our informant sent me code implying it's an AI. Apparently hidden in all Vandelay's Project Armstrong robotic parts.
And what makes you so worried?
My source said that Vandelay never kept a project under wraps like that before. There's red flags all over this.
What? You have me running around on some dark web hunch?
I trust my sources.
You're sounding even more suspicious than Vandelay.
Ugh, Chai, just...
You know what? Don't care. I'm out of here after this anyway.
Okay. Okay, buddy. We gotta trust her. It's part of the plot, you know. You may not know it yet, but you gotta trust her. Who we can't trust those purposes. Am I right, fellas?
And that's when I taught Rekka everything she knows about production.
Your tales are nothing but lies.
Shh, like you would know. You just clean the floor.
Damn, alright. You're saying a robot teacher everything about production? You got that timing right. You see that? Yeah, I'm so good. You know, guys, I don't think I've ever mentioned it, but I do like rhythm games. Give me a second. I do like me rhythm games. Buy millions, upgrade. Keep using the basic combo. Only basic combos? Well, I want to buy them. I think it's fine.
Looks like fun.
When the air, jump along to the beat. Oh, that is fun. Aw, I miss all of it. Oh shit. Maybe I'm taking too much damage. Sick. Alright. Oh god. Perfect. Ugh.
Please do not walk under the press machines when in use. I can't believe I even have to say this.
Oh god. Ooh, that was a close one. Oh, another fight. Alright. Doing it in the air. Hold on, boy. That's not what you want to do. Come here. Let's go. Yay. Alright. I'll just finish this level and then I'll play another more high five. I don't know when I'm gonna play more. I'm not quite sure. Maybe later? Before the end. Tomorrow. Or I can just stream it whenever. Dun, 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 dun. Yoink. Speed. Let's go in. Hello, another robot. Let's see
You
what
can
they're
just
talking
tell
about.
how much Mimosa hates Corsica. Yeah, congratulating every department put security in her Armstrong email. That's a corporate slap in the face.
Huh. Wait, there's gotta be some more stuff in here, right? There is. Hee. Okay. I can't hit that. But I can hit this. Okay. Dude, that is so fun.
You're not getting out of here. You're on lockdown and getting the smackdown.
Hey, wait! Come on!
Ooh. Ow. Ow, okay. Dude. This is just a fucking brain. Turn off your brain kind of game. It is fun though. The mechanic does feel fun. I got an A. No, there's a B. Oh.
Lockdown over here. Peppermint, this is where you come in?
Oh, she's not responding. Cam issue line Rekka. Hey Rekka, first of all, what's all this crime lines breaking down? Okay, I'm too lazy to read that. I'm too lazy to read. What?
Hold up, Chai. See that door?
Uh-huh.
Might be able to bypass security on that one.
Oh.
It's a rough route, though. Lot of stairs.
You know what? I like exciting. This looks like more fun.
Are you sure? Okay, I guess we're going to that route. Let me see this. Let me grab those. Yummy, yummy. Ooh, okay. Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Hi, you don't even know where this rail goes.
Chill out. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah? Well, look ahead.
Oh. Yo, this actually looks fun. Like, you guys ever been flying fox? Oh, fuck, that's not what I meant to do. I've been on flying fox before. I mean, it's probably not like this, but this is. Is this 2D? It is 2D.
Admit it, Peppermint. You wish you were doing this.
Actually, no. Also, looks like you've been spotted.
That's as far as you go. Punk.
Yo.
Tuck and roll, Chai.
What?
Dude, that I'm waiting. Nice.
Well, somewhere.
We're actually pretty close to Rekka's office now.
See?
Oh, look at
Told
that.
you it'll work out.
Hello,
I've
little
seen
guy.
some good work and some bad falls in my time. And I must say, I'm impressed you are still alive, lad.
I'm also impressed he's still alive. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, I missed that. Why does it look like I've been here before? Or maybe that's just deja vu. Probably the latter. Yeah, it's probably just deja vu.
What are these? Electric barriers? Come on.
Thought this might come in handy. You ready for this, Chai?
Yes.
Ready for what?
Shoot to destroy act Peppermint. Call Peppermint by holding RT.
Peppermint!
Cool tech, huh?
Whoa! How did you...
Just a bit of temporal displacement. Kinda complicated. Not your lingo, but one of 808's hidden features.
You could have been here this whole time?
Didn't think you needed me, Mr. Confident.
That's actually funny. Yeah, let's go. There more stuff that I can go to.
Doesn't look like you can make this jump. But see that switch?
Let me guess.
Yep, call me in. I can activate those for you.
Ugh, you sound like a video game tutorial.
I mean, we are in a video game. By holding RT, you can... Okay. Function lockdown. Okay. Wait, that's not what I meant to press.
Peppermint! Your turn!
Let's go!
Oh, it's a moving one. Oh, on, what? Okay, I'm still up here though, so that's fine. What's this? Hello. Weekly marketing. Introducing the arrow. It be done, couldn't be done. Now whenever someone got lost and see an arrow, I can tell a friend, that's just an arrow. Let's just hold imagery. Okay. Something about an arrow. That's the wrong button.
Your turn, Peppermint.
You called?
Alright, let's go. Let's see. Okay.
Here we go.
Need help?
Try this out. Push it up.
Light 'em up.
Your turn, Peppermint.
Try this
Oh,
out.
wait. I thought it was already aimed. That was my fault. This is gonna end.
Looks like somebody got an upgrade.
Oh.
My time to shine. I can overload those enemy barriers, you know. Just call me in.
Ah, okay. That is neat. Alright.
Here we go. Peppermint, come on.
Come on.
Power forward.
Yummy.
Huh? Oh.
Peppermint, your turn.
Need help?
Ow, please don't get hit.
Push it up.
Is he still alive? Yep. Dude.
Power forward.
It's an A. Okay, it's an A. Not bad.
Well, that went better than expected.
Of course it did. I was there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Peppermint. I appreciate you for helping me. Clearly the awesome one. Oh wait. I keep mispressing the
Go
button.
get him, guys.
Okay, I missed all of that, which feels bad for me. But... I'm gonna ignore you. Can't do anything about that. But I also want to hear the dialogue. Actually, I'm curious now. Alright, fine. I'll listen to you.
Analyzing your skills, and it seems like someone has altered your... Have you felt any side effects? Like someone temporary?
Yeah.
Well, it seems very useful. I can even tell this straight... Your battles...
Yeah, but
I can tell. You'll need to wait a moment before bringing this life form back into battle. Just take care of yourself, keep hydrated, and watch that partner gauge so you know when you're ready.
Okay, buddy. Don't worry about it. I got this. Any more stuff around here? Thing. 1, 2. Even when you walk, it goes to the beat. I don't know if you guys know this. Probably. Honestly. Oh. They bumped each other's head, and then they spotted us. Okay.
This thing again.
Call me in or use your magnet to get close to him.
Oh, he's already dead. I can't hit the last hit. Okay, not bad. Maybe I can do things faster, so no. Are there any more buttons I need to press? Oh. Oh wait, Anna, I need to be patient. Come on. Oh god. I almost had that. What the heck? Oh my god. Hold on. Wait. Oh, bro, come on. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. Okay, I need to wait until it stays in the spot. That makes a lot more sense, I guess. Who doesn't want more gears? I mean, alright. Bro, he got stuck. Owned by gravity. It's so true. I'm bad, guys. I'm sorry. Alright, Peppermint. Thank you. Is it okay? See what I can upgrade. Special attacks, double riff. Until long damage. Okay, let's see it in action actually. Oh! Holy shit, that is pretty cool. No lie. And this one is the one that was we already saw earlier. Which is pretty cool. And I don't know what to buy for this one, I'm gonna be honest. I could get this. There's only like 2 left. Which isn't too bad, I suppose. Am I close? Am I near? Could be. I don't think I'm close, am I? Well, once I'm in the office, I kind of want to. There we go.
Peppermint, come on!
Need help?
Oh, bro! I didn't shoot it.
Peppermint!
Yeah!
Your turn, Peppermint!
That's not what's supposed to happen. Alright. I'm not used to aiming.
Let's go! Try this out.
Peppermint!
Go get him,
No,
Ty.
alright.
Try this out!
Come on.
Teamwork! Hooray!
Hooray. Why? Why sound so disappointed? Teamwork's great, man. Ding, ding, ding. Alright, let's go up the stairs. Oh, hey, little buddy. Hey, young. Ooh, I need 2 more, I'm assuming.
Pep up, Chai. We're almost there.
Alright.
Oh, well, I guess your whole get to Rekka's office without her knowing plan is shot.
Thanks to you!
Hey, hey! Who is doing all the hard work here?
It wouldn't be so hard if you just listened to me to begin with.
They're arguing.
For all workers who haven't yet entered the lottery for Armstrong Festival tickets, now's your chance. You won't want to miss this show.
These pigeons are the source of my discontent. I desire assistance in ridding of them from my cleaning area.
Think you can help out, Peppermint?
You called?
I shoot that. I can, but what's the point? Oh.
Need help?
Pigeons are too far. Perhaps distant force is required.
They're gone.
Pigeons are too...
They're gone now. What? What am I supposed to do with the pigeons? Alright, that sounds really nice to hear.
Peppermint, come on!
Come on!
Check this out.
There's more? There's still more. Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, hi, Kara. How you doing? Oh, God. Give me a sec. Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. No, wait, what am I doing? Get out, Kara. Ooh. Oh, I'm getting beat up. Okay, maybe if I spread out a little. I miss a combo. Oops, oops. Hello.
Peppermint, come on!
Aww. Peppermint didn't hit the right guy. Okay, I can hit the other guys. Right?
Here we go!
Okay, that was really offbeat. You didn't see that. I mean, you guys did see that, but like, didn't see that. No. Am I supposed to go here? Or here? I don't know, I'm supposed to go here. Oh god, that is so satisfying. Yeah, hello, Kara. Oh. I am playing this for the first time, and after the office, I will be done. I hope.
Well, this is it.
Just play it cool.
Play it cool? Okay.
Current waiting time for appointment with Rekka is 3 months.
3 months?
You're free to have a seat until then.
I'm assuming it's gonna be behind the okay, I'm not reading that.
I know this may get me in trouble, but I think that is the love of my life right there. Oh, unrequited love. Our work agreement forbids it.
Where? Over here.
Bigger, stronger. Is this promo for Rekka or motivation for the rest of us? I'm trying to make this a better place to work. And look at you. Showing off. Figures you don't see it. You think this encourages them? Nah. It's just a reminder. You don't have what it takes. The workers here need to know. They ain't ever getting out of that hole they dug themselves into. This world is sick. Dark. Sad.
But we are supposed to help.
We can't change anything. The card, this poster's.
Oh, okay. I don't know if there's anyone that stay for 3 months. I do wonder too, actually. What happens if we actually wait for 3 months? Where are we supposed to go? Can I destroy this? Oh, hey!
Another one! Pretty awesome! Who's making all these?
Oh, those two are Evil Within reference. Evil Within reference? Ah, did not know that. What are you looking at, buddy? That guy? This guy? Where am I supposed to go? Oh, wait, I'm supposed to sit down, right? Or act like I'm sitting down? Wait.
Peppermint, come on!
Okay. Okay, no, I'm just supposed to just go in. Alright. I'm dumb. yeah, thank you for telling me. I mean, I figured it out in the end, so. There's some interesting, even revisit the levels. Oh.
Introducing.
Oh, damn.
You want to be successful? You want to be productive? Then you gotta be aggressive.
Okay, lady.
And when a defect punk like you wants to run out of here, you're just asking for it.
Asking for what exactly?
You just
wait. Give me a second. Sorry about that, chat.
You disrespecting me? That's it. The gloves are coming off.
The gloves. You tell me she has robotic arms. She does.
What was your plan for this, Peppermint?
I don't know. Fight?
Ow.
You're paying me double for this.
But I'm not paying you anything.
Hey! I'm the main show here! So let's get ready to crumble. Woo! Come on!
Ow. Oh, I sure. Okay, this is a lot easier.
For defect.
Oh no! I mean, this is part of. Okay. Dodge it, bro! What's she gonna do?
Perhaps I could use some juice.
Dude, that art! Oh, I probably shouldn't be there. Wait!
Come here. Charge it up.
Let's get her, Jai.
Unstoppable.
Push it up. Go get him, Jai.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, don't hold back.
That's not what I meant to do. Oh, wow.
How do you like this, Rekka?
Dad, don't do that. Dude, I keep messing up my buttons. No, I meant to dash, bro. I'm so dead if I say that. Okay.
You ain't gonna ruin this company's rep.
Rekka, maybe if you just chill out.
You're going out with the trash.
Actually. Can I shoot her? Or am I supposed to dodge this? Okay. What the fuck? Wait. Oh god.
How do you like this, Rekka?
Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Can't really hit her when she's like that, right?
How do you like this, Rekka? Let's get her, Shy. How do you like this, Rebecca?
I missed my special move. That's actually kind of sad. That's not what I meant to do. Please get out. Please don't do that. Ow.
Let's get her, Shy.
Ah, I should have jumped. No, I was so close. Don't tell me I have to restart. No, okay. She grapples you? Okay. Okay, I like that animation.
Get up, Shy. How do you like this, Rebecca?
I need to stop fucking going on like that.
How do you like this, Rebecca?
Peppermint, come on!
Don't hold back.
Alright, I love this game.
Peppermint, how do you like this, Rebecca? Don't hold back.
Peppermint, come on!
Oh. You're so low.
Peppermint, come on!
How do you like this, Rebecca?
Okay, that works. Hi, Robin. Hello.
You're down for the count, big boss.
You think I'll lose to a punk like you?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wait, I do wonder who's the voice actor. I'm curious now. Hit him! Hell yeah. Hey Rare, thank you for the follow. Whoa. I got a B. Okay, that's not too bad. Compared to the first boss fight that I did.
Cool. Her personal pass key. Great job, Chai.
Huh? Hmm.
My fire rushers like it. Chai is Akachi. Akechi? Oh, okay.
This is crazy. Looks like we found our AI.
This is a screensaver, Chai.
Oh. It's so dumb. I love it.
Wait. Spectra is designed to interface with user perception and reasoning? This gives Vandelay direct access to people's minds. Would you make that thing stop? I'm trying to concentrate. What did you just do?
You said make it stop.
Oh. Oh no.
Rekka, please tell me you've dealt with the defect. What in the hell am I looking at?
The name's Chai, not Defect.
Where's Rekka?
Oh, haven't you heard? I better start looking for a new production head.
Is this some sort of joke?
Oh, now this is a juicy meeting.
Ooh. The gasp.
You want me
He's
to
muted. When you want to speak.
Zamzo, I think you're muted, honey.
That's so funny. That's so mean.
I was going to say...
Korsica, get your people to production right away.
Oh, yes, sir.
Go ahead, send whatever you want. See this? Peppermint and I are gonna kick your ass with your own tech.
Why did you have to mention
And if that's not enough, check out my arm. I can make a guitar and slam it down.
Idiot! Come on!
He is so dumb. We love to see that. Alright. Not bad. So I'm assuming that's all the other bosses that we have to fight. That is actually quite a lot. Or do we have to fight all of them? Chai is dumb, yes. We love that dumb boy.
Not even an apology, Chai?
Dude.
For getting the job done?
Are you that dumb? Now they know me. No, you're not acting alone.
And...
Oh, secrecy is blown. I have to rethink my whole plan.
There was a plan?
What?
Okay, I might have been on a power trip. I am sorry. But you got your data right, Spectro?
Chai, please,
the
oh my
data
god.
that said Vandelay can basically mind control you?
I wasn't really listening.
Just check this out.
Chai, oh my god, my boy. My sweet, sweet boy, please. You're so dumb.
Hey! Whoa, what are you...
It syncs with Project Armstrong interfaces.
Try it on yourself.
This isn't Armstrong tech.
I got smudges on my arm. It's not coming off.
And with just a simple command...
Don't you think that you were right all this time and I'm a stubborn loser? Also, Peppermint is way cooler than me.
Oh my god.
Yo, what the...
Still doubting?
But you made me say that. Couldn't Vandelay have designed this for, you know, research or something?
Only you wouldn't find this suspicious. The point is, they can, and I need to stop that.
Well,
Look, just because he's a special boy doesn't mean he's not dumb.
But I have no idea how to get off this island and feel a little responsible for messing things up.
Great.
She didn't
You're
even need to
hereby a
mind
member
control
of my
him for him to say that.
Cool, cool. Our own little weird indie three-piece.
Oh, will there be more?
Hey, Chai, before you head out, I want to show you something I was working on.
What now?
I mean, I can save here, right? I think so. Oh yeah, I can decorate stuff here. Why not? What's up with the graffiti that we saw earlier? Oh wait, what's this one? Like, completion? I completed this? Ah. Oh wait, I get more gears? I didn't know that. Okay, that's nice. Oh my god, he's just spinning! Look at him! Aw, little ball.
Wonder if Peppermint's doing the I'm being nice to you but secretly pissed at you thing.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she was.
I bet if you could talk, you'd say I looked pretty cool back there.
Okay, boy. Get up. I think I can end it here.
On second thought, I want to get prep.
I think I will quit. The saving was Just leaving will save your progress to the... Wait, do I have to save? No. How do I save? Do I have to talk to her?
So it looks like I can modify your energy source to micromanage your abilities.
I'm gay for
I don't need
purpose.
help. I know you want to be a
Understandable.
rock star, but we need to work together.
Okay.
So, this is what I was working on.
Alright,
They're
let's see what
custom
it is.
chips to boost some of your abilities.
Sounds cool.
With a few broken Armstrong parts, I can make you passive skills. I went ahead and made you one on the house. Cuts down the time needed to call me in during battle.
Okay.
All about you, isn't it?
Anyway, you'll need to equip these for them to take effect.
How do I equip them? Oh, never mind. I'm done.
Right now, you don't have many slots to work with, but with some upgrades, you can mix and match skills.
Ah, okay.
So bring me back any Armstrong parts you find, would ya?
I'll keep an eye out.
Alright, okay. So this is recovery battery meter. Beat stun. Can't buy any of... No way, I can buy these. But should I? It's a question. Special attack. There's some new ones, and there's some attacks. Oh, these are new, I guess. Okay. Can I leave now? How do I save? Is it saved? Okay, this is... Okay, you know what? This should be fine. Right? Right, chat? I don't know. What do you think, chat? I want to be done for now, for today. Because it's safe. Okay. Uptime. Been streaming for 2 hours. I think that's a pretty good time to end it off. So, yeah, thanks for joining in, guys. I'll definitely play more over the week. Over the week, since I'm pretty much free for a whole month or so. And yeah, where do I put? Where's my ending scene? Yeah, this was a good stream. It was a more relaxing one. I don't think I'll raid anyone. Is there anyone to raid? Have fun. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, there is one person. Her name's Artsuki. No, not Artsuki. No. Sleepy Suki. They're pretty alright. They're pretty cool. So let's rate them actually. Alright, I'm gonna end the stream and raid. See you guys next time. I'll put this game as a stream next week for sure. Alright, bye bye.